Good morning and welcome back to 120th. Today we are talking about the amazing Pentacon 6. But before we start talking about it, I want to tell you that I will be giving away this camera to one of you for free right after I finish testing it. Details of how you can win it will be in the next video that I put up. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that, and this beauty will be winging its way to one of you. Okay, let's talk about the Pentacon 6. Alright, this is the Pentacon 6 from the famous Pentacon factories of East Germany in the late 60s, early 70s. It takes 120 film and shoots 6x6 square frames, of which you will get 12 to a 120 film. As you can see, it follows that kind of upright SLR form factor, so not quite the same as your Hasselblads or your Bronica S2As. Kind of feels a bit bigger and bulkier, but maybe a more familiar shape for people progressing from 35mm. There are an absolute mass of lenses that you can get for this camera. It shares a mount, it shares the same mount with some other cameras we've already seen on the channel, the Kiev 60, the Kiev 6C, one version of the Kiev 88, all the previous versions of this camera. So there are loads of lenses around that will fit this camera. Some made by Pentacon, some made by Kiev, some made by other Soviet lens manufacturers. Also Carl Zeiss, Meyer-Optik. There are loads of people who made lenses for this mount, so there are masses of them available. This camera was built in what was a fascinating historical period for Europe. Right in the middle of the Cold War and the division of Germany into East and West Germany. This is an East German camera. Pentacon were an East German company. In fact, this particular one says made in GDR, German Democratic Republic, which was East Germany. The lens that I've currently got on it is a Carl Zeiss Biometar 80mm f2.8, also bearing the maker's mark, Carl Zeiss Jenna DDR, DDR being another name for GDR, same thing, over to DDR being the Deutsche Democratic Republic, maybe? Essentially DDR was the way that GDR was written by German people. It is big, it is heavy, not by any means the heaviest camera you're going to find, but certainly a big chunky camera, and then with some of the glass you can put on it as well, you can get a really hefty outfit out of this. With this Carl Zeiss 80mm f2.8, put it on the scales, weighs in at 1.4 kilos or 3.1 pounds, and just for fun, let's try it with another lens. Now with the big chunky 180mm f2.8, also from Carl Zeiss, let's just try that one. 2.5 kilos, 5 pounds 8. So that's a good chunky camera. You're gonna know it if you're carrying that one around. So it's heavy, and there are some reliability issues. It's common that you will find some problems with these. I've heard of shutter issues, film transport issues, light leaks on some models as well. But the good news is there are loads of these around. They're very popular. The production ran for a long time, which means that a lot of camera repairers will take them on. Whereas some of the other models that you've seen on this channel, the S2A for example, Kawa 6, I've got a Norita 6.6 up there on the shelf, that it's hard to find people to work on. Not many people want to take them on because spare parts are hard to find. Not so for the Pentacon 6. It's also got quite the cult following online, and there is a wonderful website, pentacon6.com, run by a chap called Trevor, which has an absolute boatload of information about them. So you can find out more about the history of the lenses, the various arguments between East and West during the time of its production. So it's big and it's heavy, some reliability issues, but the real important question is, does it take good photos? So I'm going to take it out and give it a spin. I've got a few lenses to try. You've seen this one. This is the 80mm f2.8. This one is the 180mm f2.8. We also have a 50mm f4, a Carl Zeiss Flektogon 50 f4, and I want to take this for a spin. This monster is a Meyer-Optik Görlitz 400mm f5.5. I have read that these lenses are a pile of shit. Only one way to find out. Let's go and take some photos. Right then, we're out in Bristol city centre. It's the crack of dawn on a cold Saturday morning, about 2 or 3 degrees. I've been watching the sky trying to figure out what it's doing, and it doesn't seem to know. There's a few gaps way over there in the distance, but generally it's a pretty overcast nothingness. Let's head down to the waterfront to see what we can see from there. The sun was teasing me as we drove in, giving me the impression it might pop out and break up some of this cloud, but it has since changed its mind and fucked off again. Right then, we're down by the harbour side now, and you can see over here there's just a little bit of light. Everything else is pretty flat. Darker over there. I mean, who knows, there might be something we can do with it. However, I'm going to stop here and do a shot here, so that we don't go back empty-handed. I've got a Foma 200 loaded at the moment, and I'll just shoot as is to start with. Let's give it half a second at f16. This is our frame. It's quite tight because we've got the 80mm 2.8. That's all right, we'll start with this, see where we go from there. Yeah, it doesn't sound like too bad a half second, but I've introduced quite a bit of movement by pushing the shutter, so let's get cable release out. What I really want to do is wait for that sun to come out and the clouds to break up, but we can't wait all day, can we? Let's move on. Okay, this one now. Not that, ignore that. This over here, this bridge, Bristol Hotel sign behind it. Could be nice. This is what's great about shooting 6x6 in town, is that you actually get some height to some of your compositions. Let's try a different 3, 2, 1. Stick with half a second actually, let's. Alright, that'll do, one of those will work. Right then, which way now? Sky is not getting any better. Time now, 8:15, so I've got about another hour. Let's walk further, see what else we see. Right then, it is dark. I'm using a 200 ISO film. It is not the right conditions for using a big long lens, but there's rowers rowing in the harbour, so we're going to get a big long lens out. It's interesting, I seem to be getting a lot of vignetting. 40th of a second, so we're going to get some motion blur on this. Let's try one. So we'll go for a 30th. Here comes number one. Pretty poor for the first image with this lens, but that's the end of the film, so first job is to change it. It's raining quite a lot, which of course is not ideal conditions for changing a roll. Let's go Foma again. I don't want to waste any colour on today. There literally is no colour in the world this morning. Right, there's a tiny bit more light over here, so let us go chase the scraps of light that Bristol is willing to give us this morning. Oh, get down here. Let's go just here, and we're right down at the level of the rowers. Yeah, good. Camera's getting pretty wet. Seems like poor images might be the norm for this lens. Let's give it a few more chances. She looks like she might come quite close. Let's come around this way. There she is. Right, let's be ready as soon as she comes into frame. Not getting any better. First one almost in focus, but still pretty poor. We'll get rid of this lens, try something different. I'll go for the wide actually. That's a great idea, isn't it? Okay, let's put on the 50mm f4 and we'll go over there to the other side of the harbour by those cranes over there. I found a nice spot on a bridge as I was crossing the harbour. I got some nice shots of people passing with a slightly slow shutter speed to give some motion blur, then headed onto the cranes. Right, then we're just getting to a bit of the harbour, so I call, well, we call this place the M Shed, but the old harbour cranes. So this could be quite fun on the black and white. Lens has stayed relatively dry so far, which is good. And we'll do a super long exposure one. Let's do 1 second at f16. 3, 2, 1. Right, it's another film done. What to do? It is not getting any less wet or miserable. So, I think I might knock it on the head for this morning. Right then, I'm back. I've dried off and it is no longer raining on me, although it is still raining outside. Apparently that's just what's going to happen now in the UK for the rest of eternity, so I believe. 2 overriding impressions that I took away from that first shoot with this camera. Number 1, it will take some great photographs if paired with a good lens. And as we saw from that, 80mm f2.8, good lens. 50mm f4, good lens. 300mm f5.5 Meyer-Optik, not good lens. So not good that I'm starting to wonder if there's something wrong with this. Maybe there's some damage. I don't see any damage, looks quite nice. But the photos that I took from that were really not great. So, and I would have expected better even from a poorly built lens. I didn't get a chance to take any meaningful photographs with the 180, the 180mm f2.8, but you have seen that in action before on the Kiev 60. If you haven't watched the Kiev 60 video, I'll put a thingy somewhere around here. So go watch that as well. That lens I did use with the Kiev 60. In fact, it was a different lens. I've got 2 of these lenses, both in varying states of disrepair. Good lenses though, and lots of fun. So, good lenses equals good photos. Who knew? The other thing to mention is that I don't like the sound of it. Now, I appreciate that not everybody shares my obsession with camera sounds, but for 2 very similar cameras, we've got the sound that the Kiev 60 makes, and then we've got the sound the Pentacon 6 makes. I would describe it as a kind of a dull waft rather than a zingy crash. And for some reason, it gives me less confidence in the whole system. I feel like there's not enough spring in it. Now, that lack of confidence is clearly unfounded because I've just put 3 rolls through it and they all came out fantastic, apart from the ones that the Meyer-Optik lens ruined. So this is clearly something that I have to work on in my brain. But overall, the Pentacon 6 is a good camera. This one works, despite the fact I might not like the sound. And the important thing to note is that you can get some cracking lenses for it. It has one of the most widely used lens mounts of any medium format camera. So lots of lenses have been made, lots of them are very good. The camera is perfectly adequate and some of the lenses are fantastic. And therefore, as a system, it's definitely something that is worth getting into, especially as Pentacon 6s sell these days for peanuts, really. I mean, you could probably get one without a lens for 150 quid, $150, which is nuts for what you get. And also the lenses are relatively cheap as well. I think that Flektogon 50mm f4, you can pick those up for a couple hundred quid. That Biometar 80mm f2.8, you can pick up for about 150 quid as well. So they're relatively cheap lenses. One of my other favorite camera systems, which you've seen quite a lot on this channel, is of course the Rolleiflex SLX. Similar, you know, you can pick up bodies for that relatively cheaply, but the lenses are crazy expensive. You're not going to find anything for less than about £300 or £400 on that one. So realistically, it's a good value camera with good value lenses that will allow you to take some amazing photographs on medium format film. What more could you want? Another thing to talk about very briefly is viewfinders. So this camera system has interchangeable lenses and interchangeable viewfinders, which I will remember how to remove. There we go. So viewfinders are interchangeable. The whole point of the Pentacon 6 TL and the introduction of the TL version was it came out at the same time as a through the lens metering prism. So you can get metered prisms for this. You can also get straight prism finders. I think you can probably get a chimney finder, and of course there's a waist level finder, and I suspect there'll be some kind of sports finder out there. All the finders you could want. I wouldn't say it's the best viewfinder in the world. I found it relatively difficult to focus while I was out there, but we are splitting hairs here now. So that's it. That is my discussion of the Pentacon 6. Good camera. If you've never tried one, go and buy one. They're relatively cheap, so you don't really have an excuse not to go and buy one. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, I will be giving this one away to one of you lucky viewers to thank you for sticking with me and watching all my videos. So make sure you subscribe, because how you are going to win that will be coming up in the next video. Loads of other stuff coming up on the channel, namely Mamiya RB67, Fuji GX680. We'll be adapting that to take some modern batteries. So if you have a GX680, interested in the GX680 as a system, but are worried about batteries, come along for the ride on that one. I'm also going to be doing some crazy things with cardboard boxes. That will be coming up next. More black and white paper reversal, more darkroom printing, more everything basically. It's just loads of stuff coming up. But you're already subscribed, so that's fine, because you're going to see them all. All right, good. Bye.